Hello everybody, it's AJ of the Mighty Glue Stick. Nice to see you, or not see you as the case may be. This is another one of my little monologue-y chats about a particular monster type. And today I'm going to be covering a favourite of many, particularly old school gamers, and that is the Modrons. Now Modrons come from the outer plane of Mechanus, which is a plane of absolute lawfulness. So it's the clockworks of the universe. It's the mechanical gears that the rest of creation operates under. Okay, so home to the Modrons, but also the Formians, which are the insect-like beings, all sorts of insect-like beings, I'd imagine, because Mechanus is actually really huge. It's each one of those cogs is continent size. The smallest ones would be island size, or big enough at least to put a citadel on, and that's just tiny, weeny little gears in the huge mechanism which makes up Mechanus. The various parts of it rotate once every 289 years. They complete a cycle. And every 17 cycles every 17 cycles, so that's once every 289 years. So I guess a cycle is a bit shorter than that. So you can actually see the cogs rotating around, and various bridges and mechanical access ways and things are built constantly and reformed by the Formians as they go about their business, mainly making sure that the gears of the universe are working properly. And once every 17 cycles, their directive is to go out and survey that everything is going smoothly and according to plan in the multiverse. So the overall objective of Mechanus is to make sure that law permeates, law operates everywhere. Law holds all of the multiverse together. Now, how this ties in with whatever sort of cosmology, whatever sort of formation mythos you have around how your D&D universe came into being, you can either engage it or not engage it, or heavily involve the Modrons or not. They could just be a quirk, they could be a leftover, a remnant of another god's divine directive. They could have alien motivations completely divorced from any sort of divine thing. They could just be an alien race from another dimension that goes about their business, following their own strictly lawful tenets. So all of the Modrons are lawful neutral, which means that they apply law without any sort of ethical or moral overlook. So to them, the law is the law. That's it. There's no questioning. So much so that their entire existence is lawful, and they, as a result, are very mechanical. So in appearance, they look like a weird blend of mechanical and organic parts working in perfect cohesion, illogically, so they don't appear to be able to work properly together. There's no way in any other realm of the universe where a being like a Modron would actually work. It's a perfect cyborg, so to speak. It's a perfect blending of purely mechanical and organic parts, and they interface just naturally in their home dimension. When people from the material world go over to the planes of Mechanus, everything is completely regimented, and I would take it to a very fine nuance of how alien this environment is to the naturally chaotic organic beings that we are. Little things that you take for granted. For instance, if you drop things on the ground, they will automatically arrange themselves in order. The entire plane is resistant to chaos. Dice will always roll in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That sort of thing. Just little basic simple things. When you pour water, it will pour out in increments, exact increments. It doesn't spill off random drips. It's weirdly regimented. Rain will fall exactly spaced out and will form into perfect pools of exactly 500 milliliters. It will rain for exactly 10 minutes. At exactly the same time every single 5 cycles. Everything is completely regimented. Even like the dirt and ground itself, if you look at it in fine detail, look at it through a microscope, it's made out of tiny cogs and pulleys and wheels and things like that. The entire planes is pseudo-mechanical in nature. And the Modrons cannot operate other than lawfully. They can't do it. They are, in most respects, as we would see them, robots. So they operate according to their programming. So it's best if you don't think of Modrons as organic beings, although they are. That serves only to show that they can possibly be corrupted, and they have the proviso of the rogue Modrons. So the structure of Modron society, per se, is completely hierarchical. They have Primus, who's at the absolute top, and making its way through the various different types of Modrons all the way down to your simple monodrones. So you've got monodrones, which can only really do one thing at a time. They're like a little soccer ball type thing, well, a bit bigger. They're person-sized. And they do one thing at a time. So they can dig a hole or move a cog or relay instructions or go in this direction or go in that direction, but they can't do that and do something else. So if they're doing something and you talk to them, they have to stop what they're doing and listen to you, and then they can talk. They can't talk while you're talking or listening. They can't talk and do something else. They can't even gesture and talk at the same time. They can only do one thing at a time. And it can be terrifying if that one thing that they're doing is stabbing you to death. Duodrones can do 2 things. So they can operate a shovel and give you directions at the same time, or they can listen and talk, or that sort of thing. And then tridrones can do 3 things. They can look in 3 different directions. They can stab you with 3 different spears. They are triaxial, so they rotate. They look like a triangle, an inverted pyramid. And yeah, they're the basic guards, and they stomp around and do things. They supervise whilst doing something. So they got an eye on their charges, the monodrones and duodrones, while they're guarding. Quadrones can do 4 things at a time. So they can fly, operate a bow, and tell you that you're going to die, and draw another arrow. And then pentadrones can do 5 things at a time. So they're the ideal supervisors, and they can keep an eye on everybody and make sure everybody's doing exactly as instructed. They can also breathe out a paralyzing gas. The Modrons per se are not inherently violent, and they will seek to resolve things non-violently, because destruction is not a part of their mandate. They are there to construct and organize and order the universe, not to break it down or destroy it. They're there to organize it. So the natural enemy of the Modrons are Slard and other types of chaotic beings. I won't go into great detail on the stats of the Modrons. They're pretty weak as individuals. The vast majority of them are monodrones and duodrones and quadrones and pentadrones and things. They do go up the scale, so there are higher types of the Modrons, but you generally don't see a lot of those because they're high up in the hierarchy and there's a vast multitude of them below them. So they're very, very tied up with organizing and being the central hub of communication. All communication, of course, relays itself back up through the hierarchy until it gets to Primus. And Primus is the architect of the entire Modron species. He's the guiding, governing body of the entire combined collective intelligence of them all. He is the Borg Queen. And if you think about the Borg and the way the Borg operate, we are the Borg. We're not individuals, we're a collective. You will be absorbed into the order of our being. That is exactly how the Modrons operate, just not in a sort of lordful, evil way that the Borg do. They don't kill and destroy things. They don't fight their way into absorbing you. They'll just ignore your existence and go about their business. And if you get in the way or start destroying them, they will seek to section you off and keep you segregated from what they're doing. So you will be surrounded by guards in an overwhelming show of force. And because Modrons have this connection to each other. If you destroy one, it will disintegrate, its essence goes back to Primus instantaneously, and he constructs a new Modron to take its place. He just constantly creates monodrones, and as he creates a new monodrone, the excess energy left over goes back through the hierarchy and upgrades the next one up in the rank. So they just continually recycle and generate more and more and more. So there's always exactly the same amount of Modrons in the universe, which is a great many. So yeah, that's basically what they do. Now, when you encounter a Modron, it's on a mission, it's doing something. They don't just wander around looking at the place unless there's millions of them marching through the planes of existence and surveying everything, in which case they will measure streams and wander past and scan everything, non-invasively, but their passing will, create a road, a pathway, a superhighway from one-dimensional access to another, which they have created and closed behind them. And they're going through all planes of existence, so there's a massive attrition rate as they go through more destructive parts of the universe, and Primus works full on, creating more and more and more of them. So Primus is constantly creating more and more and more of himself. He's like generating these cells, which are the Modrons, and constant flow of energy, and has this constant connection and overview of the entire universe. So if you could be in the presence of Primus and actually engage Primus in conversation, he would blow your mind. Literally, your mind would just explode out of your ears, because the concepts and words that Primus uses would create recreate the universe in your head. And our language just can't deal with the concepts that Primus deals in. He's got an overview of the creation, all life and all operations and all interactions in the entire universe. So he's a supreme being. So I would say that most people, not even gods per se, have been in the presence of Primus, and he's just off the books. You're never going to destroy the Modron species. At the best, you could inconvenience them for a little bit, but they're axiomatic. They're unchanging. And you can't corrupt their activities. If you did somehow manage to have a plot in your campaign where you're actually significantly impacting the Modrons, you've unleashed some sort of cosmic horror, which is sowing absolute chaos throughout the universe. I mean, chaos, absolute chaos. Then gods and Primus and things will get involved. Angels and things will be descending on your position to met out some divine justice. So yeah, but on the whole, people generally play Modrons to be quite comedic, but they don't necessarily have to be. They can be terrifying in their lawful nature. They're not good, they're not evil, they don't care whether you live or die. If you're disrupting the divine plan, their plan of absolute order, then you're an obstacle to be removed. And they won't bat an eyelid or a focal lens if they need to remove you by deadly force. And if they do so, they'll do it with absolute precision and unrelenting focus. Yeah. So a Modron, when it's bent on a task, that's all it is. It's the task that it's doing. That's all it is. It has no personality, no individuality. It's pointless engaging them in conversation and asking how they feel. They do not feel. They're like a robot. So yeah, and it can be quite interesting playing a rogue Modron that has started to understand that it is an individual, but it's very difficult to effectively roleplay a rogue Modron that's just coming into its own. Generally speaking, you would want to roleplay a Modron which has been independent for a number of years, decades even, and it's become a quirky sort of number 5 is alive type personality, not disassemble. So yeah, that's how you could play it. And that can be quite amusing as well, just with the sheer alienness of them and how they operate and things. But again, they're very prone to being lampooned and played for the buffoonery of them, where that's not necessarily I don't think that's a very great utilization. They could be much more interesting, I think. Right, that's 15 minutes of Modrons. Yeah, Mechanus is a fascinating place, and it's one of my favourite outer planes to go and visit in people's games. And I love representing the sheer weirdness of absolute order represented through everything, and just creeping out the players with how strange it is. Thanks for listening. If you've got any interest in any of the other sort of planar creatures, let me know, and I'll have a look at them.